Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about the urban structures of Addis Ababa, locally known as Sefers. These are neighborhoods deemed as slums, considering the poor condition they are in today. But they are also neighborhoods that were part of the city since its foundation. They contain important social, economic and spatial networks that can qualify them as places of coexistence and interdependence. By using these figures, I will try to provoke a discussion on the relevance of such urban features for African cities in the future. I am Antena, a PhD researcher in the Faculty of Architecture and the Built Environment. Addis Ababa is a city placed in a space among four prominent mountains, in which there are other smaller hills. At its outset, the city can be considered as a network of encampments predominantly set by nobilities in Ethiopia and their followers. In its original meaning in the local language Amharic, Sefer entails such encampments, but through time it evolved into meaning neighborhoods. Such settlements are organized by positioning prominent structures, which are the residences of the nobilities, on the top of the hills, and their followers inhabiting the sides of hills surrounding them. These settlements, formed by the rulers of the different regions of Ethiopia, are then connected by a network of footpaths. What can be seen by 1897, which is about 11 years into the city's formation, was a cluster of settlements networked by footpaths determined by the topography. The most dominant settlement of all is formed around the emperor, by then Menelik II. Characteristically, the noblemen's houses would have fenced compounds and the rest of the settlement were clustered of huts. Eventually, as the emperor grew in popularity and was able to persuade more and more regional rulers to join his rule, more clusters kept being founded. In addition, other types of settlements such as ones surrounding churches got formed, and the city continued growing in an organic way it started. Such successive formation of settlements and increase in population led to the formation of strong political and commercial centers. Gibbi, being the emperor's compound, became the political center, whereas close to the St. George Church, Arada became an active commercial center. The late addition of a train station to the south made it possible for the city to be structured based on three centers. The most significant phenomenon in the urbanization process of the city came in 1975, the pseudo-communist regime of 1974 until 1991, through the proclamation to provide for government ownership of urban lands and extra-urban houses, nationalized urban properties. This meant the majority of the city dwellers lived in residences rented by the state, to which they have restrictions to improve and appropriate. As a result, the city stagnated in development, and much of the physical changes were ad hoc modifications with temporary structures to go around the regulations that prohibited permanent structural change. This led to the dilapidation of the city while its population kept growing. By the turn of the millennium, the resulting neighborhoods were regarded as slums while under the ownership of the state. This makes them a curious case in the pertinent discussion of the formal and informal city. By the year 2003, Ethiopia was identified as having 99.4% urban slum population, which highlighted considerable parts of its cities as unlivable. Alarmed by similar and other multidimensional development challenges, global organizations advanced what are known as the Millennium Development Goals, later followed by the Sustainable Development Goals. To accommodate and take advantage of these initiatives, Ethiopia embarked on a series of development plans that impacted its cities. The most impactful project in Addis Ababa is the Integrated Housing Development Program that intended to improve livelihoods and avail urban housing for poor majority. With the previously established assessments of the Sefers as slums and unfavorable living environments, this project intended to replace them with new and improved dense neighborhoods. Contrary to previous trends of urbanization in the city, and in reaction to the dire backlog in housing stock, this project is directed at producing cost-effective houses as fast as possible. Within the first 5 years of its implementation, the project delivered 213,000 new houses, 4,306 small enterprises were established around it, 1,760 permanent and temporary job opportunities were created, and it helped in the advancement of the construction industry based on a cyclic relationship among the stakeholders involved. Various Sefers were demolished to give way to the up-and-coming structures in the center of the city. While on the periphery, the city expanded to create neighborhoods anew by appropriating farmlands to accommodate them. It is important to notice here that both the higher level policies and the lower level project plans focused on the economic and infrastructural improvements, but with less attention being given to the social and spatial aspects. As a result, new neighborhoods missed contextual variables that created a sense of identity and belongingness to the dwellers. They were applied in the city in a redundant and monotonous way, which broke existing socio-economic relations among communities. The dominant Euro-American-centric urban theories that inform global and local development plans categorically ignore or classify African cities as problematic or needing rather to be fixed than studied. Within the theorization and mapping of cities of the world, African cities have been virtually inexistent. This is why scholars such as Jennifer Robinson and Ananya Roy are calling for more inclusive urban theories. The urgency with which both national and global agencies engage with cities results in rapid urbanization with incompatibilities between local cultures and global trends. As a result, many times politicians get attracted to the portrayal of progress, and less attention is given to the practices that make a city a good place. This results in the ignorance of local cultures to make way to speedy and ready-made foreign models. This phenomenon is hindering the emancipation of fundamental sets of local values. The integration of such local assets into the design and planning process, plus the development of the necessary set of tools to do so, will generate communities as places of equity and coexistence. Such a challenge demands that we advance our methods of investigation and increase our library of cities and their contextual variables. This is why I am very curious to learn about similar cases and examples that you may find around you. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing what you may find as peculiar in such communities, especially those where dwellers identify themselves with the community and depend on it for their own livelihoods.